I know this morning we're able to get on fine.
Look at that.
No, yesterday there was a problem.
Because I wasn't here.
No, that wasn't the reason.
Oh.
And it wasn't, and even I had to use Bob's phone who went directly to Zoom. Okay, not through
the show.
not through the show.
Wow.
So it must have been when I went over and mentioned it to Andrea afterwards, it must have been that Shul Cloud who we have our connection with, that there was a problem with them. Okay.
Your wife is recuperated well? Marty?
Good morning, Ruben.
She's not home yet?
No, she's home.
Oh, yeah.
She just started physical therapy yesterday.
Uh-huh. So she's gonna be cranky.
Every day. This is, I think you told me your name, but I don't.
Because even my wife was never cranky. Was cranky when she came home from the first
I
day.
remember being, you told it to me, but I didn't remember.
His name is Mordechai.
Mordecai is in the stock.
The last name I don't remember, but the Mordechai I do because
That's your
it's
name.
that's why I can remember.
I got a lot of Mordechai's over here.
If his name was Michael, I wouldn't be able to remember. But Mordechai,
Okay, gentlemen, we will get started with our learning sponsors. Okay, and year of learning, friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Asne Bad Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezechen Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha Bas Rivka. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. The month of learning by Mark Linder in memory of his mother, Yona Bat Zalman Leib. Rabbi Isaac Schmerler in memory of his wife, Menyasima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. Friends of Marilyn Schmerler in her memory, Menyasima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. Gary and Marsha Schrager in memory of his father, David Ben Yosef, and his mother, Freda Bas Hendel. Marsha Federbush in memory of her husband, Uriel Pinchas Ben Arav Shimon. Andrea and David Dolney in memory of her father, Tzvi Herschel Hillel Ben Abraham. A week of learning by Shelley and Oscar Mold in memory of her father, Shlomo Ruben Ben Binyamin. Vicky Rabinovich Fish and Larry Fish in memory of her father, Chaim Zusia Ben Shlomo Ben Sion, her mother, Ita Bat Tzvi, and his father, Avram David Ben Shlomo Raphael. Donna Goldstein in memory of her father, Aye Yehuda Ben Moshe Shmuel. Today we also have a day of learning plus Shalashudas fun by Tzipora Goldstein in memory of her husband, Aye Yehuda Ben Moshe Shmuel. And that's also, let's keep in mind the Refuah Shlema for Peretz Tzemach Ben Yaakov Yitzchak, for the Bachor Moshe Ruven Ben Sima Tebela, for the Adina Naomi Basrina Esther, and all the others that we keep in mind when we say Mishabera. Okay. May Neshama have an Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Vati Yeshua Shem Matzliah, and the Choban Israel Dud Kaben Shtia. Okay. All right.
it's Erev Shabbos.
Okay, just a quick reminder that that the Rosh Chodesh is 2 days this weekend, Shabbos and Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying a reminder that it's both Shabbos and Sunday. Okay. Yeah, but
Could be Friday and Saturday. Because then Yom Kippur would come out on Sunday, and that's not allowed. I wouldn't set but that.
Okay, I'm just going to jump back for a moment.
Because you like dates.
No, I like to start at a place where,
Well, you could finish with the dates.
okay, no dates. She doesn't go on dates. The father doesn't let her go on dates. Okay,
Father's Day.
well, that's why he doesn't let her go on dates. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the Gemara really on the very bottom of Mem Tet Amud Beis, we saw Tashma, the Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yonatan Hayu Kaime, they were both standing. What happens? Ata Ahu Gavra Gachin Venashke the Rabbi Yonatan Akra'ai. Okay, along came this fellow and he bends over and kisses the foot, okay, of Rabbi Yonatan. Okay. Amarle Rabbi Chanina, and Rabbi Chanina says, "My hi, what's going on here?" Amarle, he says to him, Kotev nechasav levanav, who he was somebody who wrote all of his property to his sons, right? To va'asitinhu lizane, and we forced him, we coerced him to feed him. Okay. So the Gemara picks up on Nun Amud Aleph, as we finished up yesterday briefly. Iyamart b'shlema lav dina. If you say it wasn't the law, mishum hachi asinu. That's why we did it. Okay, okay. No, that's why we forced him to feed the father. Ella iyamart dina. But if you say that's the law, asin hu bai. Okay, why did we have to force him? Okay. So that's where we left off yesterday. On Nun Amud Aleph, 3 lines down from the very top. Okay? All right. Okay. So what happens? Okay. Amar Rabbi Eli, he says, Ba'usha hitkinu, and Usha they made a takana. So we see a series of statements that Rabbi Eli is claiming were carried out in Usha, Takanot, Hamilvaz Vez, okay, one who is dispensing his money. Al Yivaz Vez Yoter Mechomesh. He should not dispense more than a fifth. Tanya Nami Hachi, and we have a Braita. Everybody okay? Yeah. Okay. What happens? Tanya Nami Hachi, we have a Braita that teaches the same thing as follows. Mevazbes, okay, one who dispenses his money, all right? Al Yevazvez Yoter Michomesh, he should not dispense more than a fifth. Shema Yitztarech Lebriut, lest that person himself, okay, be necessary for him to rely on other people, okay? Umaseh be'echad, Shabikesh Levazbez Yoter Michomesh. And we have an incident where there was an individual who sought to dispense more than a fifth, velo hiniach lo chavero, and his friend, his colleague, did not permit him to do so. Umano, and who was it? Rabbi Yishvav. It was Rabbi Yishvav. Fa'amrela, and others say, Rabbi Yishvav velo hinicho chavero. And it was Rabbi Yishvav, and he did not allow his colleague to.
No, he was the one
He was the one who had the money.
Right, and his colleague wouldn't let him.
And his colleague, no, that was the first one. Then the second, Umano, and who was it? Rabbi Akiva. And it was Rabbi Akiva who didn't let him.
Right.
That's the point, okay?
Doesn't the Vazbez mean squander?
In modern Hebrew,
Modern.
Hebrew, okay, but not in Mishnaic Hebrew.
They just use it that way because
Okay.
it's to dole out lavishly.
Okay, so what happens? Amar Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman ve'itema Rav Acha bar Yaakov. And others say it was Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Ma'ikra, what pasuk can we say perhaps gives us a basis for this? V'chol asher titen li aser asrenu lach. Okay, it's the pasuk there. All right, whatever I get right, you give the aser asrenu, giving a tithe, but you're using the word twice, right? Vaha lo dame isura batra le isura kama. So the Gemara says, but wait a second, hold on. If the first tenth is not going to really be equivalent to the second tenth, okay? Because the first tenth is given of the whole, whereas once you remove that amount, then you say another tenth.
Not-
That's the amount. You're not dealing with the same whole. You're dealing with 1/10 less
so it's only
of that original amount.
Coincidentally, in this sedra, hey, aset yaset. So the verse is aset is asher. Give myself,
and you'll well, and
become
you'll,
rich.
Right.
and you'll become enriched.
Okay, so that could be.
Today's sedra.
All right. Amar Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, Asrenu lebatra kikama. Now, when it says Asrenu, that you should tithe it, the it refers here to the
original amount.
first 1/10 that you took, to the
See,
original maaseh.
The halacha is actually very interesting because if you have 5 million bucks, say, and you retire, and you're no longer working, so you're allowed to give a fifth of the carrot. In other words, you could give 1 million, and then after that, the maximum you're allowed to give is a fifth of your annual income.
That's assuming that you retired with the 5 million.
No, well, if you
lechatchila.
retire with $50, you could give 10, and then after that,
Only if
you
you're,
would have to, and
so you
then
have to give
there's
a fifth
shiloh whether
of what your Social Security is, right?
What?
Then you'd have to be giving only what your Social Security gives you.
Correct, but only a fifth.
Right. Amar Rav Simi Bar Ashi, he says so. Ushmuot halalu mitma'atot v'hochot. Okay, an interesting comment. He says that these lessons that we've just been reciting diminish as they continue. So what does he mean by diminish? First, you have Rabbi Eli citing an example in the name of Reish Lakish.
Who gives it?
Okay.
Who also cites it.
Right? Then somebody. Then you have the next time he cites it, it's just Rabbi Eli in the name of Reish Lakish. Then the next time he cites it's just in his name. So that's what his comment is referring to. B'simanach, and what is your mnemonic device to remember these items? Ketanim, katvu, bizbazu. These 3 phrases. Minors, wrote, and the dispensing money.
Kasuba and
Right? Okay. Amar Rav Yitzchak, he says as follows. Another example of what they did in Usha. Be'usha hitkinu sheyehe adam mitgalgel im beno ad 12 shana. Okay, let's see what this how we can explain it. The best way I'm going to go with is that Rav Yitzchak is saying that another takana in Usha was such that a man should treat gently his son until 12 years of age. Mikan ve'elech, from that time on, yored imo lechayav.
come
And
down
at that,
on him like a ton of
okay, then from that point on, he should be more stringent with
strict.
him in terms of his learning. Okay, Aini, is that really the case? V'ha'amar Rav Shmuel bar Shilat. But did not Rav say to Shmuel bar Shilat the following? Batsir mi bar sheit. If one is below the age, a son below the age of 6, lo takbil. Okay, that you do not
Take him
to
into
make
class. You don't
you
send him
don't.
to Cheder until
Well, I
6.
was going to say you don't accept him into the school
Right.
for learning. Okay,
Right.
bar sheit kibel. But someone who has reached the age of 6, you can accept them into the school. Okay, what are we talking about? And what? V'safei le ketorah. And once you accept him into the school, you stuff him with Torah learning like you would stuff an ox. Okay,
There's a pun there, obviously. Ketira with Torah.
I suppose. Okay, and yes, he says, Safei le ketorah. Okay, you stuff him with Torah learning. Okay, mihu, according to whom? Eino yored imo lechayav ad lechar 12 shana. But wait a second, says the Gemara. Nevertheless, we just got through saying that you don't become makpid. You don't become stringent with him regarding learning until 12 years old. Vibayat aim. So there seems to be a steering. Vibayat aim. And if you want, I would say as follows: Lo kasha. There is not a problem here. Ha lemikra, ha lemishnah. One is for the learning of Bible, the other for the learning of Mishnah. The Amar Abai, as Abai says, Amrali aim, as my mother, who was really his nurse, who acted as a stepmother. Bar Shit Lamikra. Somebody at the age of 6 should start learning Bible. Bar Eser Mishnah. At the age of a boy at the age of 10 should start learning Mishnah. Bar Tlesar Ta'anita Me'et La'et. And somebody and a boy at the age of 13 needs to begin observing the fast days at the appropriate times. Ubatinoket Batresa. And with a young girl, she starts observing the fast days at 12. Okay? Amar Abai. So Abai continues now. Amrali aim. Again, another piece of advice she gave him. Hi Barshit ditarka le akrava. When you have a situation when a 6-year-old gets bitten by a scorpion. Okay? Now, I want to just put a quick note in here. Koren had an extensive note on this particular item. I don't know if Talmudology, if anyone follows that blog, I would assume, okay, they might do so. But the implication was that that often, as we're going to see not only in this piece of Gemara, but in another one, that when a child could be stung or bitten or things like that, okay? A scorpion stings a person, okay? But the implication was clear, at least in this note, okay, that based on the age and the physical structure of the body, a small child who has a smaller body, it is more deleterious to that child. Okay. All right. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to see that the Gemara is going to recommend some medical procedures.
Just a quick comment that there's a machlokes Rashi and Tosfos as to whether or not this following procedure is a cure or is a prophylactic. No, Tosfos says when you send your kid out to play, you smear the stuff on him first so that the scorpion bite won't work. And Rashi says you do it after the kids get stung.
Okay. All right. Hi, Barshit Ditarkale Akrava. So we're saying if there's a 6-year-old who gets bitten, but it's actually stung by a scorpion, Bioma the Mishlem sheet, on the day that he's just reached 6 years old, okay, he's lo chaye. It's not possible that he's going to live. Maya sute, what's his remedy? Okay, mararta derde chivarta v'shikra. Okay, nishpaye v'nishkaye. What do you do here? Okay, you rub him, okay, with let's call it bile. Okay, is what I have. All right, so you rub him with bile, okay, and right, in this case, from a white vulture, and then you have him. You also mix it with and beer. You mix it then with a drink, probably beer, okay, vanishkaya, and he drinks it, okay. Or take another example. Hi barshata de tarik le zibura, or you have a 6-year-old who gets, in this case, stung by a hornet, okay. Biyoma de mishlem shata lo chaye. Okay, if this occurs when he was just 6 years old, so to speak, he will not survive. Maya sute, what is that remedy here? Okay, it's the dikla b'maya. You take the palm tree fiber, the bast from a palm tree, okay, and you put that in water. Okay, you mix that. Nish paye, you again rub it on him. Vinish kaye, and you have him drink that as well. Amar Rav Katina, says Rav Katina, Kol hamachnis et beno, pachot mi ben sheish. Okay, anyone who tries to bring him back, we're back into what age you bring a child to school. Okay, anyone who tries to bring the child into the cheder, into the school, when they're less than 6 years old, ratz acharav eino magio. You're continually running after the child, okay, and you're never successful getting him to.
Why do
Okay.
we do it at a younger age today?
Okay. Why do we bring children
Children are starting at 4.
at 4 nursery school
But
today?
that's only play. That's just play. I
Okay.
mean, I understand today they wind up teaching them 3 alphabets and how to read and write music, but we don't. We also teach the kids Gemara in 5th grade, which is 9 or 10.
Right.
And
Okay.
the Gemara tells you don't learn Gemara till
Till
you're
12,
13 or
13, 14.
15. And Perek is even later.
Right. In any case, the point is in their time, okay,
Perkei Avos here at 6.
in their time, they felt that 6 was at age 6, then the child was able to be separated from the mother, and at that point, sit in school and pay attention, mature enough. Gemara is going to pick up on this, okay? You're chasing after the child, and you're not going to successfully get them, I understood it, to sit down and pay attention to
That's
learn.
one start.
Okay? Ika da Amri, and there are those who say, Chaverav ratzim acharav ve'ein megi'in oto. No, he wants to run around and play and
This
things like that.
version is that he will be, if he starts younger than 6, when the other kids come
They won't
to
be,
school,
they will run
they won't
after
be
him, they
able to
won't be
keep
the
up
chase,
with
they
him.
won't be able to reach his level.
In other words,
Okay, that
that's
was,
the second
you may be
version.
right. That wasn't the shot that Corin suggested. Okay? All right. Utravaihu itnu. Okay, and both of them have been taught. What happens? Chalish, if the child is weak, in other words, if he's not physically mature, okay, to sit and learn. Vigamir, okay, or the question is he mentally, emotionally mature? Or if you want, I would say, ha dikachish, ha dibari. Or we could say in one case is the child weak, not of ill, okay? Dibari, on the other situation, the child is healthy. Okay, what happens? Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. He says as follows, a new statement. Ba'usha hitkinu. In Usha, they again gave another takana. Ha'isha shemechra b'nichsei melog b'chayei ba'ala umeta. We have a situation, they said, where the woman sold her nichsei melog, her usufruct, okay?
No, the underlying property.
Her book property.
She sold her estate.
Oh, she's
thus
all right.
depriving the husband of
Okay.
the of
Okay,
the-
all right, okay. Let me just make a note here. Okay,
So her husband's not.
yeah, no, okay. That she sold, the woman sold her property during the lifetime of her husband, and she dies.
Right.
Okay, now, what happens with regard to the husband's status? Habal motzi miyad halikuchot. Then the husband is able to claim that he should remove it from the purchasers.
In other words, he's like a balmetzra. He can come and reacquire it.
He can make a claim, and the court should be
Give it
able
back
to
to
give it back to him. Ashkechei Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef. Okay, and we find a situation with Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, the Rabbi Abahu, regarding Rabbi Abahu, Dahava Kai b'uchlusa de'usha. And what happened was he met him among the population there in Usha, maybe in the marketplace, who knows? Amarli, and he said to him, Man Mara de Shema'ata de Usha. What has the master learned today during the discussion of the Beis Din of the Sanhedrin in Usha? Amarle, he said to him, Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. Okay,
Yes,
regarding,
who's the Rosh Hashiva?
okay, what?
He asks, who is the Rosh Hashiva? Who is the leader of this?
Well, and what, you find that in Rashi?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you're making,
no,
you're-
I'm not making it up.
no, I didn't say you were making it up. I'm just saying that's not the pshat that
Okay, of
Koren
course
gave.
not.
How does,
Okay.
how does Corin say what the,
They just said he found him and he asks the person he found,
right?
what, okay, what was learned? What was the master teaching there?
No.
What did the master learn? What did you learn there in the Beis Din's
Who is
discussion?
the
No, he wasn't
master?
asking
All right,
who.
That
That
that's
was
how
not
we
what
got
they were
it. That's how
presented.
we learned.
Okay, all right. Tana mine arba'in, what happened? Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, what did he teach there? Okay, and he told him. Tana mine arba'in zimnin, he learned from this, he repeated it for him 40 times. Vidame le keman damancha le bekisate. Okay, and it was for him as if he had put it into his pocket. In other words,
Yes, who is the footnote here says he asked who was responsible for transmitting that Messiah that the husband can reclaim Nixay Maluk.
Okay, all right. So that's a little different.
And in the regular English, who is the one that gives the rulings in Usha?
There's a difference there.
I read. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you what. it
Okay,
In the Hebrew, that's how we translate.
which one?
He
The
said,
first one or the second?
second.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't see that. All right,
That's
demand
what it says in the English. Who is the master in Usha?
right,
Right.
but that to me is not the
Okay,
shot that was.
Okay.
I like the other one, the note better one. That I think is more. Okay, who is the one that?
Tomorrow it'll be my way. Today.
Who is the one who taught that message, that lesson?
Right.
Okay, and as he asked him, what did you learn?
Right.
Okay, and therefore
did
it's
you
naturally to
learn?
ask who. All right, he told him who was the one who taught it,
Got it?
etc., etc. That makes more sense to me. Okay, all right. So what happens? Ashrei Shomrei Mishpat Oset Tzedakah B'chol Eit. Now we're going to get to a series of psukim that we're trying to clarify. The verse itself almost seems to be contradictory, but we're going to get to citing an explanation of the psukim as we cite after we cite them. Ashrei Shomrei Mishpat. Okay, happy be those who are protect or guard justice. Oset tzedakah b'chol eit. They do charity all the time. V'chi efshar la'asot tzedakah b'chol eit. Is it possible to do charity all the time? Darshu Rabotenu Shebiyavna, and our sages in Yavna expounded as follows.
That was before they were in.
Right, before they were Ush, right? Va'amrei la Rabbi Eliezer, and others say it was Rabbi Eliezer, says, Zeh hazan banav uvnotav k'shehen ketanim. That one who provides sustenance for his sons and his daughters while they were young. Remember, this came up the other day. We had a lot of discussion on this. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani amar zeh. Okay, he said, Zeh hamigadel yatom v'yatoma b'toch beito umasi'im. Okay, and what does he do? He's the one who raises male or female orphans in his home, and he marries them off. Okay, both different explanations, but for the same pasuk. Next pasuk, hon va'oshe b'veito v'tzidkato omedet la'ad. Again, how can it be one and the other? Right? Rav Huna v'Rav Chisda, the two of them. Chadamar zeh halomed Torah umelamda, one who learns Torah and teaches it. V'chad amar, and one says zeh hakotev Torah nevi'im u'ktuvim umash'ilan la'acherim, one who writes a Torah nevi'im ketuvim and lends it out to others so they can learn.
So halacha that's applicable today. If you have the practice of lending svarim to others, you can count the acquisition of that sefer against meiser money. Meiser money. In other words, it's that you can consider buying svarim if you lend them to others as charity.
Okay. Right. That's assuming you have room in your apartment for those books.
No, I have room. I
V'ra'a
don't have
banim.
two bedrooms, I have a basement.
Right. V'ra'a banim levanecha. Shalom al Yisrael. Another pasuk. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, he says as follows: Kevan shebanim levanecha. Shalom al Yisrael. Okay. Delo ate lidei chalitza v'yibum. Okay. Basically, he's saying that as a result of your sons having sons, that's why there's peace on Israel, that you don't have to worry about chalitza and yibum. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar, what does he say? Kevan shebanim levanecha, as a result of the sons with sons, shalom al dainei Yisrael, the lo ate le'inatsuye. Why? Then there's peace among the judges of Israel because they don't have to argue about inheritance and who's the primary heir and things like that. Okay? Ze midrash darash Rabbi Elazar lifnei chachamim v'chuli. What did he say as we go on to the next Amud? Right? Yativ Rav Yosef kame de Rav Himnuna. Okay, Rav Yosef was sitting in front of Rav Himnuna. V'yativ Rav Himnuna v'ka'amar. And Rav Himnuna was sitting and learning and reciting. Kashem she'ein habanim yorshin ela min hakarka. The same way that the sons do not inherit other than from property, direct property, landed property. Kach ein habanot nizanot ela min hakarka. So likewise, we're saying that the daughters are not sustained except from real property. What happens? Ivash alei kuli alma. Everybody shouted or clamored against him. And what did they say? The shavik ara, okay? Who did, the shavik ara, who diyarte le banah. The lo shavik ara, lo yarte baneh. Are we saying then that one who leaves land, okay, he is able to provide an inheritance to his sons? One who is not able to leave land, okay, is not able to provide inheritance for his sons? Amarle Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef comes to the rescue here and says, V'dilma ktubat banim dachrin ka'amar. Maybe what you're talking about is the son's right to inherit the ketubah in addition to whatever estate they inherit from the father. Okay?
Suba, that is his mother's.
Right. Okay. Gemara. All right. So what happens? Okay. So what happens here? So the Gemara says, Mar amar le, mar de gavra rabbahu. Okay. All right. Is that what amar le is? So he said to him, Mar de gavra rabbahu, that the master is a great teacher.
He said, you really understand.
In other words, Rav Yosef really clearly understood what was the intent behind the earlier statement. Right. Okay? You're right. So what happens? Rabbi Yade Mai Ka'amina. You understood what I intended to say. Okay? Amar Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef. So now Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef says, Rav Zan Mechite da Aliyah. Okay, Rav would indicate that one could sustain somebody from
the girls.
Okay, we're going to say in a moment. Okay, that he could sustain from the better items. I'm going to just phrase it that way. The better. Well, we're going to get that to in a second. The better items. So the Gemara says, Ibayalahu, Parnasa Havya, Umai Aliyah. Okay, if I'm going to say, okay, if I raise the question and say that there's income there, what do we mean by the better item? Okay,
Parnasa here means their dowry.
okay. Well, that's what you have from Art Scroll.
No.
Okay, from Rashi, fine. Okay, they didn't bring that. Okay, all right. So what happens there? Ma'aliyut da'av. We're saying from the status, the better status of the father. Okay, ukadishmoel. Okay, in other words, should be paying the sustenance should come from what the financial social status of the father is. Yes,
It's referring here to the upper chamber called the Leah.
That's later.
we didn't get there yet.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
All right. So what happens? Okay, Ukadish Shmuel, and this seems to follow a statement of Shmuel, the Amar Shmuel, who says the Parnasa Samin Ba'av. Okay, that here what we're saying in accordance with the social financial status and the temperament of the father.
What the father would have done in his lifetime, we continue.
That's what seems to be the case. That's what we approximate for their sustenance. O Dilma, or perhaps Mizone Mamash Hava, or maybe we're talking about his actual financial status. Therefore, Umay Elai. So what do we mean then when we say something above, something superior? Midvarim Tovim Shne'amru Ba'aliyah. Maybe we're saying here that it's from the appropriate, the correct statements that were said when there was a discussion in the attic, okay, right, where the rabbis met. The Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, as said by Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Ba'aliyah, okay, when they met in the attic, Hitkinu Sheyu Banot Nizonot Min Hamataltalin. They made a takana that the daughters should be sustained from movable property as well. Okay? Tashma. But listen to the following Braita.
And that's why it said Zite earlier.
Okay?
Because that's already metal.
Right? Let's see. Bidei, the Rabbi Banai. Okay? Right? Okay. Achuha, the Rabbi Chia Bar Abba. Okay? So what this Braita is telling us, that in the possession of Rabbi Banai, who was the brother,
The apotropos.
okay, the Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, okay, the following, Havu metaltalin diatme, okay, that he was dealing with the movable property of orphans. So that would seem to imply that he was the apotropos.
And he was doling out to the girls from the metaltal.
Right? Atu lekame de Shmuel, and this came before Shmuel. Amarle, and he said to him, Zil zun, okay, go and sustain the daughters. My love lemezune. Aren't we talking then about sustenance, okay, in general? Ukadarav Yitzchak Bar Yosef Sevirale. And does this imply that Shmuel is of the same opinion as Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef? Lo, no. Hatam leparnasa have. No, we're talking about their parnasa, their basic dowry. Their basic funding, their dowry. All right? Ushmuel v'ta'amei da'amar. But Shmuel was saying according it to his own perspective, his own view. Ushmuel the parnasa samin ba'al. Okay, and so do we say then that Shmuel holds that the dowry, that parnasa, has to be estimated based on the social, financial temperament of the father? Hava uvda b'nahada. And there was an incident once, Maaseh Shahaya, in Nahardea, Vadun Daine de Nahardea. And the judges of Nahardea decided it, okay, in that manner.
Give them metaltal.
Right, to give it by means of metaltalin, exactly. bepampadita, whereas in pampadita, okay, what happens? Va'agbe Rav Chana bar Biuzna, okay, it was, so they collected, right, from Rav Chana bar Agba. Amar laho, and he said to him, Rav Nachman, Zilu ahadru. Okay, so Rav Chana bar Biuzna tried to do the same thing, base it on the metaltalin, but he was chastised instead by his, so to speak, superior, Rav Nachman, who said to him, Zilu ahadru, go and give it back to them.
And
Return,
Rav Nachman
repeat,
is the-
change your psak. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, from the Gemara's perspective, Rav Nachman is the final word on Dine
Right.
Mamonos.
Okay, all right. I just thought he was the more in terms of the Marida Asra of the
Yeah, but
community.
we've learned
Yeah.
other
Thank you,
places that whatever Rav
Halachic Rav
Nachman
Nachman
says,
ben
in
Mammon.
Dine
Okay.
Mamonos, we rule like him.
Okay, so he says, go back and change your psak, reverse your decision.
Take
Right.
the money back.
Okay, Ve'ilo, and if not, says Rav Nachman, Magvina lechu la'afdunaichu minaichu, and if not, I will remove
Sell
your homes yourselves
and
from
replace
you. In other words, I will take from you, and you do that to pay them
pay
back.
the estate back.
That happens. Okay. So what happens? Let's go on as we've, right? Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Asi savur lemizan mitaltal. Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, both of them thought that they should be able to provide the sustenance from movable property. Amar laho Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, and Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi again chastises them by saying, Milda de Rabbi Yochanan v'Reish Lakish lo avdu ba uvda. A situation, something that neither Rabbi Yochanan nor Reish Lakish felt that they were able to do. They were not able to do. Atun avdin ba uvda. You are going to do that thing. In other words, they didn't. Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan did not feel it appropriate to be mefarnes, to give from a metaltalin. You think the two of you whippersnappers, so to speak, you have the right, you're going to do it. And Rabbi Elazar, savar lemizun mimetaltalin. Rabbi Elazar also thought it was possible to sustain from movable property. Amar lefanav Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim, and he was spoken to by Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim, Rebbe, in other words, who apparently was his, I'm going to call him his Talmid Chaver. Talmid Chaver, there, okay? Rebbe, my teacher, Yodea ani bach, I know about you, I know your style. She'ein midat hadin ata oseh, that you're really not following the strict principles of the law, ela midat rachmanut, but rather you are acting from an aspect of kindness. Ela shema yiru hatalmidim v'yikba'u halacha ledorot. Okay, don't really do that because lest the students see you do that, and therefore they will learn and determine that this is how the halacha should be in the future. So what happens? Okay,
You know it's not like that.
right, let's see what happens. Okay, Hahu de ha'atelekami de Rav Yosef. And a situation came before Rav Yosef, Amar laho, and he said to them, Havu la mitmare da'al budye. Okay, he says, give them the dates, the girls, the dates that are lying out to dry on these mats.
Which means they're no longer attached to the tree. They are
Well,
now
we'll get to it.
metalzil.
We'll get to them. Okay. In other words, he's saying give them these dates that are drying on the mats. Okay, and the implication we're going to see is that you don't dry dates while they're still on the tree. You've got to have plucked them, and they're lying there, and so therefore they would be equivalent to metalzil. Amar le Abai, and Abai says to him, Ilu ba'al chov hava. We're at a situation of a debtor, okay,
Someone held the mortgage on
okay,
that
ki
land.
hai gavna mihava yahiv lama. In that such case, in that situation, would the master have given him the same response, the same kind of answer? Amarle, he said to him, all right, dechazia lebudya ka'amina. Okay, in other words, what am I saying? Those, if they're fit to be, in other words, ready to be plucked for the
They're
mats.
fully ripe and ready
Okay,
to be.
that's what I was saying. Let's just go over a tiny bit to finish up this Inyan. Sof. He says, eventually, kol ha'omer legazos. All right, kigazuz dami. But don't we say that therefore that something that's considered
Fully
immovable property, okay, that the sustenance is not collectible, in that it's considered like it's already
If
cut.
it's fully ripe, it's
Okay,
considered
considered like
as if
it's cut
already
already.
been picked.
All right. So he answers, right? The tzricha ledikla ka'amina. Okay, what was I
They
saying
were
actually?
almost ripe.
Okay, that they were really still dependent on being on the tree because it was, they weren't totally ripe yet, but they were almost ready to be picked.
So he kept backing off.
Okay.
Also, very important, the whole nowadays, subsequent, assuming the subsequent go under the tree, is that the order substance may be declared for movable property. Gotta remember, at the time of the Gemara, even nowadays, a landowner is considered a man of substance.
Right.
You have to own land.
Depends if it's in downtown
And
Dallas.
this time that the
How are you
true
gonna find?
woman rule
Is he
losing
up
the
there or
right to
down there?
land.
I was
As it was being
in the.
kicked out of other countries, those countries wouldn't have left and buy
Buy
land.
land, right.
So the only wealth that you had was the
Metal
metal
plant. So the
That was it. That's why they come today. You're allowed to